Hi everyone, it's Rylee, and in today's video I want to talk about how I handle pacing in the Zebra English classroom. If you are interested in teaching ESL online, or if you're interested specifically in Zebra English, definitely take a second to subscribe to my channel because I am posting new content twice a week all about succeeding as an online ESL teacher, and I don't want you to miss out on any of my tips. I would also love for you to come and get involved in the Facebook community. I run two Zebra English Facebook groups. One is Zebra English Hiring Q&A and the other is Zebra English Teacher Q&A. So regardless of where you are in your Zebra English journey, there is a place for you in these Facebook groups, and I would love for you to check them out. They're linked in the description, so make sure you head on over there. And for those of you who are not yet teachers with Zebra English, but you are in the hiring process or it's something you're interested in the future, please stay tuned till the end of the video because I want to tell you about some resources that I would love to share with you if you choose to add me as your referring teacher and walk through the hiring process with me. So as a Zebra English teacher, you will notice that lessons really can range in the number of slides that they have. Many of them have 12 to 13 slides, some of them have 17 to 18 slides, but regardless, the format is usually pretty similar. There are a lot of games at the beginning that sort of introduce the vocabulary, introduce the sentence frames, then you move into more of the role play slides, which usually spans 2 to 5 slides. Then you have the presentation, and then you have pronunciation and the closing. So the lessons all sort of follow this similar flow. One thing that I love about the Zebra English platform and that really helps me with pacing is the fact that if you just run your mouse over the numbers above your slide, you can see exactly what slides are coming up. And for me, this really helps me gauge how much time I have to spend on this slide and how much time I want to save for future slides. So Zebra English lessons are supposed to be about 25 minutes long. You should not ever end your lesson before 25 minutes. In fact, you can't even hit the class over button until it has been 25 minutes since class originally began. Now, Zebra English classes can span to 28 minutes, though I would really recommend you try not to push it anywhere past 28 minutes. And really the only time that I ever go that long is if there are IT issues or maybe my student is really late or something like that. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to pacing is that you should never ever skip an entire slide. You want to touch on every single slide that is given in the lesson. So my basic rule of thumb when it comes to pacing is that I want to hit the presentation slide around the 20 or 21 minute mark. So this slide usually takes my students a couple minutes because I follow the I do, we do, you do procedure. So it really just gives them lots of opportunity for full sentence output. After this, there's only a couple minutes to spend on pronunciation, and if I work it out right, I typically hit the final slide around the 24-minute mark, which is what I like to do. Another thing that I generally like to do is allow myself some extra time for the role play slides. And there are two reasons for this. The first is because it's just a really awesome opportunity for the student to produce lots of full sentences. So all throughout the lesson, you want to be getting those full sentences, but the role play is just a really concentrated time for producing full sentences. The second reason is because I find that even if I get to the role play slides and I have a bunch of extra time left, these slides are really easy to extend on because they usually take place in a scene that is really rich with vocabulary words or things that the student would be familiar with. So even if my student is cruising through role play and I realize that I need to extend a little, this is a great time to throw in some extension questions and just draw the discussion even further. So now I just want to quickly talk about what I do if I'm running behind and what I do if I need to extend because my student is really running ahead. So first of all, if I am running behind with a student, I will never ever skip a slide unless for some reason the student is crazy late and I'm already going to that 28-minute mark and I don't have time. Unless that happens, I will never skip a slide. So the big thing to note here is that you have to touch on every slide, but you don't need to spend the same amount of time on each slide. So some slides that you can adapt if the timing or the student needs it would be, for example, that slide where you're hiding a card, you may not hide all of the vocabulary words. As long as you're still going through all of the vocabulary words, it's all right. The role play slides, if you don't have time on every role play slide for you to switch and have your student play both parts, that is okay. That is an acceptable way to adapt the lesson to fit your students' needs as well as your pacing needs. Now, when it comes time for extension, there are kind of two different routes that I take or two different methods that I use. So if it's a student that I know in advance I'm going to have to extend the material with, I will actually sort of plan out some extension. So I'll often use my whiteboard and maybe draw along with the student. So if we're learning about things in a house, we'll have our whiteboard as a room and we'll draw these things, and I'll have the student describe them to me or maybe draw them along with me. And then at the end of the lesson, we can also use this to review the vocab and the sentence frames by me pointing to the different things that we drew in the room, or the student pointing on their paper and describing those things. So if I know that this is a student who is really at a place where they could use some extension, I'll incorporate some sort of activity like this where we are kind of extending throughout the whole lesson and building up to a really great review resource to use at the end. The second sort of approach that I take, I especially do this with new students or trial students if I'm not sure if they're going to need extension, and this is just to extend on individual slides. So I find that the ZebraEnglish slides have tons of room for extension because, like I said, most of them aren't just isolated words and isolated sentences, they actually take place in a scene that has a lot more content that I can discuss with the student. So to do this sort of extension, there are a few questions that I find I often use with my students. The first one is just, what do you see? When I come to a new slide, I can just ask the student what they see and they'll start describing things, and then I can ask further questions based off of that, like what color is this? Do you like this? And those sorts of things. Another question that I'll often ask my students is just that. Do you like dogs? Do you like apples? Do you like this sofa? Depending on what the content of the lesson is. Another question that I'll often ask is, do you have this? So do you have a dog? Do you have a sofa? And if it's something that they do have, my next question will often be, can you show me? And I'll have them go and grab their toy dog or whatever it may be that connects with the lesson, and then we'll talk about it. So those are sort of questions that I use across a variety of slides to just extend on those individual slides instead of doing a sort of lesson-wide planned extension. So those are my tips for pacing yourself really, really well as a new teacher on the ZebraEnglish platform. Now, if you are a teacher with ZebraEnglish, like I said earlier, I would love for you to come and join our ZebraEnglish teacher Q&A group. And one really enticing feature of that group is that we have collaborative feedback templates. So if you don't want to spend the money on Feedback Panda, or you just don't have the time to write all your own feedback templates, this would be a great resource for you to use. It's completely free and you can just copy and paste the template, fill in your student's name, various pronouns, and you're good to go. So definitely come and join that group. And for those of you who are in the hiring process or who are looking into the hiring process, I would love to be your referring teacher and to provide you extra support. I have created a hiring guide for my referrals only that will walk you step by step through the hiring process. So if that's something that interests you, you will also want to head to the description because there you can find a link to my website as well as my email address, which is rylee.autumn@outlook.com. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, I'd love it if you'd take some time to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so that you can stay up to date on all of my tips for succeeding as an online ESL teacher.